Okay, Senator, we are ready.
All right, thank you. Welcome. I'm Senator James Gray. Today we will be having public hearings on Senate House bills 64, 79, 88, 101, and 284. Before we get started, I will read through a checklist to ensure that the meeting that we are holding is in compliance with the right to know law. As chair of the Election Law and Municipal Affairs Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, and its extensions, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. In accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possible by video and other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom webinar for this electronic meeting. All members of the committee and select legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously in this meeting through this platform. And the public has access to contemporaneously watch and listen to the meeting on Zoom and YouTube and via the phone by following the directions and links provided on the general court website. We have provided public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting in the Senate calendar. We are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there is a problem on our end with access, which denies people entry. If anyone has a problem, please call remote Senate at leg.state.nh.us or call 603-271-6931. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn and reschedule. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Finally, let us start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state where you are and if anyone else is in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. I will call the roll. Senator Birdsell.
Senator Birdsell, District 19. I am in my home, in my kitchen/office, and my husband is upstairs in the office, and he'll be coming in periodically.
Senator Ward.
Good morning, Senator Ward, District 8. I am in my home and started, and I am alone in the room.
Senator Susie has notified me she has a conflict, and if she can attend, it will be later in the meeting. Senator Perkins Quokka.
Yes, good morning, Senator Perkins Quokka. I am in my office in downtown Portsmouth, and I am alone in the room.
And I am James Gray at my home in Rochester and I'm District 6. I'm also in Ward 6, but but I am alone in this room. All right. Does anyone have anything before we get started? Seeing none. All right. First is House Bill 64, I believe. And yeah. Kirsten, are you the one that's going to be calling the people today?
I am.
All right.
I will bring in the prime sponsor, Representative Aaron.
Welcome, Representative.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman Gray, and good morning to Senate committee members. I appreciate you inviting me this morning to come speak on this bill. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes.
I'm
can.
Representative Judy Aaron, representing Sullivan County District 7, Ackworth, Goshen, Langdon, Leominster, and Washington. And I bring before you today this bill which seeks to fix and clarify a problem with RSA 72:74, payment in lieu of taxes for renewable generation facilities. The problem was identified by the Honorable Jim Grenier of Leominster last year during his auditing duties as town auditor in Leominster. The Honorable Jim Grenier alerted me, Representative Marjorie Porter, and others regarding an issue with the way the Department of Revenue was dealing with renewable energy generating facilities, valuation calculations for those facilities who have entered into pilot agreements with their municipalities. We tried to get this fix in last year when he found the error, but because of past deadlines and COVID complications regarding work on bills, it didn't make it through the process, unfortunately. But without going into too much detail, DRA had been including these facilities, like wind farm facilities, into their statewide education property tax calculations, the SWEPT calculations. Although both RSA 76:8 and RSA 83-F:9 make it clear they should be excluded from the education tax and instead taxed as utilities. Including them in SWEPT calculations resulted in a decrease in state education aid to the communities where the facility is located, which means local property taxpayers saw their tax bills increase. That is what happened to Leominster taxpayers when the renewable generation facility switched to pilot payments. The Honorable Jim Grenier was looking at adequacy estimates for the 2021 fiscal year last year for the town of Leominster, and Leominster had recently changed to a pilot agreement with a local wind farm. Representative Grenier saw that the statewide education property tax increased by 40% and caused a $60,000 to $70,000 decrease in adequacy funding for their school as a result. He discovered that the wind farm valuation had not been excluded from the tax base valuation as it should have been. The issue was discussed with DRA and Barbara Reed of the New Hampshire Municipal Association, Representative Marjorie Porter, and Lauren Martin of Avatar. And they all determined that the language in the bill that I'm presenting needed to be placed in statute for clarity. So I'm simply making the statutes match up with each other for clarity by submitting the change to RSA 72:74, item 2, which inserts the line, quote, "but shall be excluded from the tax base used to determine statewide education property tax in accordance with RSA 76:81A. To make it clear how the tax calculation is to be calculated in the case of renewable generation facility that has a pilot agreement with their municipality. With this in place, DRA can correctly calculate the necessary tax calculations as the statutes require for these pilot facilities, which impacts adequacy funding. It's important for the interest of fair taxation and the funding of students in Leominster, as well as other towns that are affected, such as places like Groton and Antrim. Many of our towns may not have even noticed the problem and have been shortchanged on education funding as a result. So I ask you please to pass this bill through the committee, and I'm happy to take your questions. And I just wanted to let you know that this bill passed through the Municipal Affairs Committee, Municipal and County Government Committee in the House and was placed on the consent calendar. So nobody saw a problem with it at all. And we really need to get this fix in so that tax calculations can be properly done by DRA. So thank you. I appreciate you listening. And if you have any questions, please ask away.
Do committee members have any questions?
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Representative.
All right, I appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
We will.
Thank you. Kirsten.
Next, I will bring in Representative Porter.
Good morning, Representative Porter.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for letting me speak. I just came in this morning to make sure there was someone here from Municipal and County Government Committee and as co-sponsor of the bill to explain the bill, but Representative Aaron did a fantastic job doing that, so I don't have to say much more except that I do know that Antrim, one of the towns that I represent, was concerned about this as well, although they hadn't seen the impact yet when it was discovered by former Representative Grenier last year. So I certainly hope that you will look favorably on this fix. It's a simple fix, and I think it will help taxpayers in my district. So that's all. I'll be glad to take questions too.
Thank you. Does the committee have any questions?
Nope.
Seeing none, thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Kirsten.
Next sign up to speak, I have Jim Grenier. I don't see him on the list though. If you're calling in by phone, Mr. Grenier, please press *9 now. Yeah, I'm not seeing him on the list here. So if anybody else would like to speak on the bill, please raise your hand at this time. And Senator Gray, I'm not seeing any other hands.
Okay, do we have anybody from DRA on the line at all? Not seeing anyone. Last call, anybody on the phone, press *9, is it, Kristen?
Yes, that's correct.
Any other hands? Okay, then we will close the public hearing, and I guess we've got about 3 minutes before the next bill is due.
You want to go into exec, Mr. Chair?
The Senator Susi has asked if we could delay doing that. That
Okay.
should work out fine. That will give us a chance to get stuff on the consent calendar. And since we are meeting on Thursday, we should be able to make the calendar to get it on to a week from this Thursday's session. So,
Okay.
unless there's a bill of special interest that you senators want to exec, especially today, I was going to wait. And now we're down to about 2 minutes, so.
So quiet. Oh my goodness.
I know.
No.
Early in the morning, is it?
Yes.
Did anybody else get their vaccine this weekend at the Speedway? Just Kirsten, huh?
I did my first one last Tuesday, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Get my
How was
second
it?
one this week.
I think the governor was going to get his this weekend.
Yeah, I saw a picture, I think, online that he did.
Uh-huh.
Kirsten got
Very good.
hers. How was it, Kirsten? Okay.
Extremely organized. I was very impressed.
I have 1:15 by my clock. So I guess we will start the public hearing on House Bill 79, I believe it is.
Mhm.
And we can call the prime sponsor.
All right, I'll bring the prime sponsor, Representative Marsh.
Good morning, Senator Gray and members of the committee. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Very good. For the record, I'm Representative William Marsh, representing 7 towns in Southern Carroll County. Relevant to this bill, I've been the health officer of the town of Brookfield since 2002. And I'm pleased today to offer for your consideration House Bill 79 relative to town health officers. This bill began as a request of the New Hampshire Health Officers Association. We worked on it over the summer. And I want to especially thank the town of Tamworth and their selectman and health officer, Becky Mason, who hosted a meeting last summer to work on the bill. My top priority for this legislative session is strengthening the public health system in New Hampshire, and this bill is a key piece of that effort. I will walk you through the bill and the highlights. Section 1 updates the appointment of health officers and requires the health officers to provide contact information to DHHS. Section 2 removes the requirement that a health officer be a state resident. Section 3 requires local boards of health to meet at least once a year and report to DHHS on their readiness to address public health threats. Draft templates have been developed and DHHS can share them if you desire. Section 4 allows deputy health officers to continue to serve when the health officer position becomes vacant. Section 5 allows a single person to be the health officer for several towns. Section 6 adds training of health officers by DHHS, background checks, and rulemaking. Most importantly, regarding New Hampshire's readiness for the next pandemic is a requirement for the Health Officers Association to report to the HHS Oversight Committee and the State Health Assessment and State Health Improvement Plan Advisory Council. Section 7 gives health officers the new duty to communicate with the commissioner about noncompliance with quarantine and enforcement orders. It also gives health officers enforcement authority in the event of a public health emergency. The same enforcement authority extended to health officers by provision 5 of Emergency Order 65. I believe that these provisions need to be in statute to enable lifting the current state of emergency. Section 8 allows data sharing between health officers and DHHS, thereby enabling health officers to inform local officials when actions are advisable to protect the public. In my town, this would have been most helpful when we had a sudden COVID outbreak shortly after the November election. I was worried, I'm also the moderator in the town, that we were the cause of that. This is necessary to make our public health system into a true system where local officials can work together with state officials. Section 9 requires DES to provide a copy of notices closing pools to local health officers, a request of the Littleton health officer. The contact information in Section 1 will allow this to happen without burdening DES. House Bill 79 passed municipal and county on a 17-to-1 vote and passed the House on consent. I thank you for your consideration, and I will be glad to take questions.
Questions from the committee? Okay, I saw Senator Perkins Quokka first, and then we'll have Senator Ward.
Yes, thank you, Representative, for your bill. I was just wondering if there were any advocacy organizations involved in drafting new sections 6 and 7.
No, I did them.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Ward?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First it says here, any qualified person. What are the qualifications for a health officer?
At this point, the qualifications to become health officer have been quite minimal. In my town, I've been the health officer as I'm the only doctor who lives in the town of Brookfield, or at least I was until recently, though there's another one, and I rather hope somebody else will take on the position. I've done it for a very long time. One of the objectives of this bill is to increase the training and the qualifications of health officers so that we can strengthen the public health system in New Hampshire. At this point in time, there has not been training required, but with this bill, training would be required and we would raise the qualifications for health officers.
Okay, that's good. Follow up?
Yes, ma'am.
For the deputy health officer, is that person not required to live in the area either?
I don't believe so, but I would have to read the statute carefully to be certain. The issue that this section addresses is when the health officer leaves the position because they retire or die or move away or whatever, the deputy health officer is required to leave as well, leaving the house, leaving the town with no one in charge. And this allows some overlap and would in fact allow the deputy to move into the position if appropriate.
Okay, another follow-up.
Yes, ma'am.
And the deputy that shall be empowered to enforce public health laws and regulations and make such sanitation investigations as the health officer may direct or may be required by the Department of Health and Human Services. It seems to me if you're going to do those kinds of things, you have to be pretty close to the area, to the people that you are looking after.
I would agree with that. The issue we have is that some towns do not actually have qualified people, and we're trying to raise the qualifications. Some towns have, by exception, hired people from out of state to be their local health officer who nevertheless are close by. They may be in the adjacent town across the border in Maine, for instance. But I agree with you, in order to do the duties and to respond promptly when called on, you do have to be close by.
Okay, thank you. No more questions from me.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Representative.
Thank you very much. It's good to see you, Senator Graham.
Good to hear you.
Our next speaker is Natch Grays.
Good morning. I'm Nate Grays from the New Hampshire Municipal Association. We support this bill. I believe that Representative Marsh did a great summary of the bill, and you heard that there are a number of local health officers who pushed for this bill and are very excited for the changes. So I won't take up much of the committee's time. The only thing I'd like to add is that one of the things that we've learned through COVID is that we do need better communication between the local and state level in the area of health officers, and this bill would fix that. And so we are excited for that possibility to occur. I'm happy to take questions.
Senator Perkins-Coker.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you. Is it Nate?
Nate, like nature.
Nate. Okay, Nate. Were there any drafting points that NHMA worked with the prime sponsor with on this bill?
I recall looking at the bill over the summer. I believe we provided some feedback, but we certainly didn't draft this bill. It was definitely the officials who work in this area all the time, and I would defer to them and to DHHS, and I believe DHHS is here with us today.
Okay, thank you very much.
Additional questions? Okay, thank you very much. Kirsten.
Our next speaker is Matthew Killane.
Hi, can you hear me now? Very good.
Yes.
I just had to unmute. Thank you very much. So this testimony has been uploaded to the Senate portal. Good morning, Chairman Gray and members of the Election Law and Municipal Affairs Committee. My name is Matthew Killane. I'm a program manager with the Department of Health and Human Services within the Division of Public Health Services. Over the past 4 years, I've managed a state program for the appointment, training, and technical support of local health officers. I'm pleased to provide information today on House Bill 79. DHHS has worked with Representative Marsh during the process of developing this language for the bill, as well as New Hampshire Municipal Association. We are supportive of the bill. We believe the proposed changes will assist local health officers become more competent and better protect local public health. During the past year, the COVID-19 response has provided many opportunities to better assess threats and manage public health emergencies at the state and local level. As part of its response to the pandemic, DHHS has identified some areas for improvement and for further collaboration with local health authorities. Some of the gaps identified include the need for improved communication, clarify local public health readiness, and support the basic training of local health officers. I'll provide just a brief overview and not try to cover what has been covered before. In section 1 and 2, the proposed legislation will require the provision of contact information for health officers to remove a residency requirement, allowing more flexibility for municipalities to recruit. It should be noted that these items under RSA 128 are only applied to New Hampshire towns and not to cities. In Section 3, bill will require the local Board of Health to meet once a year to review public health threats and readiness to respond to them. This provision will allow local municipalities and the department to better understand the types of public health threats and readiness of New Hampshire communities. Public health threats in the situation of health officers can include communicable diseases, sanitary conditions in housing, pest and rat infestations, health nuisances in the form of waste, noise, and odors, and hoarding of possessions or animals. So it's quite a wide variety of things, but primarily sanitation. In Section 6, HB 79 will require newly appointed health officers to attend a 3-hour training to understand the state laws that protect or improve sanitary conditions. DHHS finds that much of the technical advice we give to health officers relates to interpreting and correctly enforcing or understanding existing health laws. In conclusion of an annual reporting requirement that reports out to the HHS oversight, we believe will ensure an important information on readiness and capacity of local health officers is shared with the legislature. In Section 7, the bill provides a health officer that can enforce pursuant to certain RSAs related to communicable disease and inform the commissioner of any substantive noncompliance with those orders during a declared public health emergency. In Section 8, the bill would add language to the department may share information with town health officers, which is helpful to them, as Representative Marsh mentioned, and it will provide the health officers with proof of completing a training on confidentiality and security laws and have signed a confidentiality agreement to make sure they protect that information. This change actually would apply to both town and city governments because it covers RSA 141. And in conclusion, DHH acknowledges that the changes included in the bill would provide greater flexibility for local governments to nominate health officers and improve the ability of health officers to fulfill their duties under state law. I want to thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony about how we can support local communities and improve sanitation. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much. Kirsten, anybody else on the list?
That's all I have for sign up. So if anybody else would like to speak at this time, please raise your hand. If you're calling in by phone, you can press *9. And Senator Gray, I'm not seeing any other hands.
All right, then we will close the public hearing on this. And we have a couple of minutes before House Bill 88 relative to the City of Claremont Police Commission. I guess while we're waiting, just a scheduling note for the senators. City of Middleton, due to an error on their part, posted their warrants for the town meeting 2 days late. There's a normal bill that usually goes through to certify, ratify, legalize all of the actions taken. I have submitted an amendment to, I think it was House Bill 476 to OLS, and probably in next Monday's calendar, we will have 476 and the amendment both noticed so that there won't be any problems with adding that to that bill. So just again, that's just a scheduling notice for you guys. That is what I intend to do with that. And then should you approve adding that amendment to the bill, we'll go forward that way. All right. And we still have about a minute. So let me get my files up and I'll be right back with you. All right. We can call the prime sponsor for House Bill 88 to introduce the bill.
All right, I will bring in Representative O'Hearn.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and good morning, honorable senators. I'm Andrew O'Hearn, Sullivan 3, Claremont. I'm also the prime sponsor of the House Bill 88. A little history of it is that it has to go through the legislation because it was apparently one of the first police commissions in the state, and this is the process in which it has to go through. It's only been done a couple times since it was back in the late 1900s. The change that we're looking for is to change the authority from the city manager to the council. And I would also say that I also sit on the city council myself as a councilor. More than the majority has voted to do this because we feel that the 9 members would be able to make a better decision of appointing the commissioners than having one person who also sits on the police commission as a member of the police commission, but doesn't have a vote, but also currently has the authority to appoint those members and remove those members. With that being said, it was passed initially in the House the last session by voice vote, and obviously with the pandemic, it was placed on the table in the Senate. It was brought back this year again and passed the House with on the consent calendar, and we would ask that the committee pass it and allow the local council to appoint these commissioners. And I'll take any questions.
Questions from the committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our next speaker is Representative Stapleton.
Representative, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Walter Stapleton. I am the Sullivan County District 5 Claremont Ward 3 representative and co-sponsor of this bill, HB 88. Just to add 1 or 2 points of interest from Representative O'Hearn's commentary. Back in 2019, the Claremont Ordinance 570 was looking to correct the mismatch between city manager appointing police commissioners and the desire and ordinance of the council to have the commissioners do so. This goes back to 1947, and a number of laws and overlays occurred since then. 1963, 1971, and it became a rather complex thing. So this is an attempt for housekeeping to clean this up. According to the city ordinance, the commissioners are to be empowered to select, the council, the city council is empowered to appoint the police commissioners, and the city manager just becomes an ex officio member for advisory role in the matter. So we're asking that that you see this to approve it as ought to pass, so we can clean up this mismatch from city ordinances and then firm it up in the law so that it's coordinated properly. And I think that's all I can really offer at this point, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are.
Questions of the representative. Senator Bretzel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for coming in and testifying. When you say there's a mismatch of the ordinance versus what's actually happening, has the town itself passed an ordinance to change over to having the council or the selectmen choose the police commissioner, is it?
Police commission.
Police
Um,
commissioner.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, the ordinance that I'm looking at is number 570, and it goes back to September of 2019. And as Representative O'Hearn indicated, that COVID kind of eclipsed us out of the situation. We had HB 1443 back in 2020. So we're trying to get this done at this point. We're trying to also coordinate with RSA 105, which provides for how police commissioners are appointed in their authority. But that relates to towns. Claremont is a city, and so we're not strictly covered under 105, and we need to have this this bill in order to give us a similar authority for councilors to appoint the police commissioners.
Follow up?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is just allowing the ordinance to align with what the town has voted on.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
I don't have anybody else on my list, Kirsten. Do you?
No, if anybody else would like to speak at this time, please raise your hand now. And I'm not seeing any hands, Senator.
Okay, then we will close the public hearing on House Bill 88. And we have considerable time this time before we go into our next bill. Somebody's going to have to teach me how to do a better job of scheduling when I have the easy ones, I guess. So
Yes.
We're
all on the same boat.
We will be back in a few minutes. What's it, 10 of that we are scheduled for?
10 of, yeah.
Really?
You've got about 12 minutes in case you need to do anything. If anybody does want to talk about any of the bills, we can. Again, I don't want to exec them if we don't have to give Senator Sousa the opportunity to weigh in. But if the next bill is as easy, we'll have time then too before the next one. So, all right, see you at 10 of. All right, my clock says 9:50, so we'll open the hearing on House Bill 101 and call the prime sponsor.
I will bring in Representative McDonald.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It is both an honor and a pleasure to appear before you today. My name is Representative John T. McDonald, and I am from Cal District 6, which consists of the community of Wolfboro. I'm here to introduce to the committee House Bill 101, which addresses the issue of closing of county books. This bill comes at the request of some of my fellow colleagues on the Cal County delegation. What this bill does, it clearly identifies a period of time, 45 days following the end of the fiscal year, that each county has to close their books for the fiscal year. In the event that the county has not accomplished that, they can request an extension from the Commissioner of the Department of Revenue. This is basically a kind of a cleanup bill, which goes along with 28:3A county audits. What's happened in my particular county is they never close the books until September, October, November, and then they have 120 days after that. Hopefully, this bill will give some incentive to go out and try to get the books closed as quickly, so that the audit can be completed in a timely fashion. And I thank you for your time and consideration in this matter.
Okay, does the committee have any questions?
Nope.
I have a question. Certainly, because of my involvement on the city council here in Rochester, closing the books in 45 days is often unrealistic, in my opinion. Would you have an objection to changing the 45 days in paragraph, line 3 to 90 days?
No, I think that's reasonable, sir. I appreciate your input. It's just, I think it's important that we have some type of goal to set for the book closing, some day definitely defined. And then again, there's also the opportunity where if there's a problem with the books can't be closed, that they can call the Department of Revenue and get an extension. But I could go along with that, sir. That would be acceptable to me.
Okay. That generate any questions from any of the other committee members?
Mm-mm.
All right, seeing none. Who do you have on the list, Kristen?
Next, we have Kate Horgan.
Good morning, Senator Gray and members of the committee. My name is Kate Horgan. I serve as the executive director for the New Hampshire Association of Counties. We would agree with Senator Gray that 45 days is unreasonable for us to be able to close our books. While we want to close our books as quickly as possible, oftentimes we're waiting for vendors to complete their transactions with us, and those include both private entities and the state. 90 days is far more reasonable, and we think is an acceptable time period for counties to be able to close our books. So we would appreciate the adjustment to 90 days, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you, Kate. And those are the only two I had on my original list. Do we have anybody else? Oh, wait, Regina, excuse me, Senator Birdsell.
Is Kate still there?
I can bring her back in.
Yes, Senator, I'm here.
Thanks, Kate. I just have a question. I noticed that on the testifying sheet, Kathy Stacy, the Register of Deeds, is opposed to it. Is it for the same reason that you are, that 45 days isn't enough? Do you know?
Yes, ma'am. That is the reason. Kathy Stacy serves as our legislative chair for the association.
Okay, so I'm going to connect with her and check with the 90 days for Rockingham County, so.
Okay. Yes, I did. The 90-day figure, I did check with Ray Bauer, who is the county administrator for Stratford County and serves as the county administrator president. So,
Okay, great. Thank you.
yep.
Any other questions? Any other people who want to speak?
If anybody else would like to speak on the bill, please raise your hand now. And I'm not seeing any hands, Senator.
Okay, just for the committees, when I did contact the people about the increasing the 45 days, they did also talk about increasing the audit to 150 days vice 120. I did not mention that up until now because I do support the 120 days. So when we get into exec session, if anybody wants to explore any of that, we certainly can. Seeing no other comments or questions, we will close the public hearing. I guess we left the best to last, and we will see you at, I think it's 15:15 is time for the next one.
Yes, Senator, we will get better at this.
Apparently, we just hit on a few bills that very uncontroversial, shall we
Right.
say. Not a lot of comments, so.
Right.
But better to have extra time than too little time, right?
Yes.
So see you at 15:15.
Okay.
All right, I think that I've got 10:15 on my list, on my clock. So we'll open the hearing on House Bill. Is it
284.
284?
Yep.
Okay. And would you call the prime sponsor?
So the prime sponsor is Representative Macbeth, but I do not see her on here and she was not signed up to speak.
Okay. Then
Do you want me to introduce the bill?
that would be fine, Senator.
Okay. This is for the record, my name is Regina Bertzel, State Senator for District 19, the towns of Derry, Hampstead, and Windham. And I'm here to introduce House Bill 284 relative to the restoration of involuntary merged lots. This bill repeals the deadline for requests for restoration of lots that were involuntarily merged. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And thank you, Senator. All right, I think that we have about 5 people signed up, so we'll let you at them, Kirsten.
All right, our first speaker will be Jason Stock.
Mr. Stock.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Jason.
Wonderful. Well, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 284. For the record, this is Jason Stock. I'm the Executive Director of the New Hampshire Timberland Owners Association. We have about 1,300 members who own or manage over 1 million acres in the state of New Hampshire. And House Bill 284 was a bill that originally we were kind of monitoring, and as I got more and more feedback from my members on this issue, it became readily apparent that this was a bit of a sleeper for us as an issue. And what I mean by that is that many times landowners, when a lot has been involuntarily merged, a landowner will not realize that until there's a event or something occurs. Someone wanting to transfer a parcel to, say, a child, you know, they have a piece of land. Originally, there was a lot, multiple lots. They wish to give a lot to a child. Then in the process, they come to find out, well, wait a minute, that lot no longer is recognized by the town, and now I'm stuck having to resurvey and readjust my lot lines to do that. Likewise, you know, if someone's in the process of selling a parcel or wish to do something with a parcel, build something on it, and there's a minimum lot size, again, they come into a situation where they find out, oh, wait a minute, this lot, which I originally thought was X acres, unbeknownst to me, it's now been merged and no longer that. And so we had members testify and say, look, you know, these lots were involuntarily merged, and we thought House Bill 284 was a good kind of pragmatic approach to resolving this issue. And, you know, the obligation is still on the landowner to prove that that lot was involuntarily merged. And so we thought that this was a landowner-friendly bill. It resolves an issue that many times is not realized until years down the road. And so having a deadline, originally there was a deadline that for when a landowner could file such a petition. We testified and supported the removal of the deadline altogether, because at this point, you don't know necessarily when you're going to go through your estate planning or gift a lot to a child, etc. And so for those reasons, we support 284. We think it's a reasonable bill, and we appreciate the committee's consideration for this. I would be happy to answer any questions I have some other members, you may have received some correspondence from some members who have actually experienced this. And I have a few that are willing to speak on it. Hopefully they're Zooming in later this morning on this. They've been successful in signing up, but I again appreciate the opportunity to speak in support of this and would be happy to try and answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Does committee members have any questions? Senator Birdsall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jason, thanks for coming in and testifying. I'm still unclear of what involuntarily merged means. Is that when the owner themselves merge with another piece of property?
No, and again, like you, I'm learning as I go, but in the house, what we learned in the municipal association testified to this effect is either through zoning or zoning ordinances, you may have, as a landowner, you may own 100 acres that are 5 20-acre discrete 20-acre lots, but it's a collection, your own total ownership's 100 acres. And there are instances, and I believe it was up into 2010, a municipality may say, all right, the Birdsall Tree Farm, instead of sending you 5 tax bills for 5 20-acre lots, we'll send you 1 tax bill for 1 100-acre lot. Or in the case the town goes through and does an overlay district or does zoning, and they modify their minimum lot sizes. Again, many times, or in instances, not many times, but there are instances where the town would say, all right, perhaps this lot's non-conforming, but the owner owns an adjacent lot. If we were to merge those, now it would be conforming. Let's merge those 2 lots. Now we have a conforming lot with our zoning, with our zoning ordinance, or our, the new zone that this has been designated. Again, this is, and again, talking to our members, this is the feedback that I've gotten, and this is pretty much consistent with what the Municipal Association testified in the House on this as well. And I'm sure they're probably signed up to testify. I don't want to put too many words in their mouth, but like you, like I said earlier, I've been learning this as I go as well.
Follow up?
Yes, ma'am.
So Jason, just for clarification, so this is actually kind of the town merging the properties for tax purposes.
Tax or zoning
Okay.
purposes. And the key here is that the landowner's unaware, they were unaware of this. There are some requirements. There were some public notice type requirements that were supposed to have occurred. Again, members in those communities where this merging has occurred, it appears that was somewhat inconsistent at the municipal level, i.e. a notice at the town, at the town office or in a newspaper of record, things of that nature. And so landowners, again, back to that Birdsall Tree Farm, you're thinking I have 5 20-acre lots when in fact they've been merged and it may now only be 1 100-acre lot. And the argument has been said, well, wouldn't you notice it on your tax bill? Well, the truth is that many times people just look at the dollar amount. They say, well, the dollar amount is consistent with last year, and they're not looking necessarily at, okay, how does it break out? They say, I paid X last year. This is consistent. They don't see kind of look at all the math up above. Or in the case of ownership where the land is being managed by a trust, or even a spouse that isn't really tuned into this, the spouse may just pay the bills and say, yep, this is consistent. And so again, these are instances where the landowner's really unaware. What we're finding is where the landowner's unaware that this merge has occurred, and then down the road, they go to do something with the property, that's where all of a sudden, wait a minute, how did this happen? And so this bill says, all right, if that has been the case, you can petition to get that lot which was merged involuntarily unmerged. Long answer to your short question. Sorry.
Senator Bertzel.
Last follow-up. So shouldn't the municipalities be notifying, other than getting a different, a tax bill? Wouldn't you think that the municipality should be notifying the landowners that they're merging for zoning purposes?
Well, good question. And I don't, again, I don't know all the circumstances at the individual levels. The law does have kind of public notice requirements. I don't believe, and again, the municipal association I'm sure will correct me. I don't believe there were requirements that were very specific that every single landowner should get a letter saying, hey, heads up, your lot's been merged. I don't believe, at least the members that I have spoken to who have had lots involuntarily merged, none of them have indicated that they ever gotten a letter to that effect. And so, again, that's, you raise a great question, and that was part of the problem on this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Senator Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jason?
Yes, Senator.
So several years back, there was an effort to combine non-conforming lots in order to get a building permit. So there would be conforming lots. They are not in any way thinking about trying to divide that back up, are they? Or separate them? So this really deals with lots that are quite sizable.
Yeah, and again, this deals with what we have seen is this will deal with sizable lots, although this could apply to those lots that were, as you referenced. Again, those can remain merged. This will not undo that. What this will do is this will provide a landowner that says, wait a minute, that was involuntarily merged. I don't want that to be the case. It gives me now an option to petition to restore that to the original lot. It doesn't undo, if I'm fine with the merge, great, I can move forward. It doesn't undo that. So if I have a building lot that was involuntarily merged, but I'm fine with that, okay, we continue to move forward. But in the case where I didn't want that lot merged, I now have that option to petition and go back and say, unmerge this lot, please.
Follow up?
Yes, ma'am.
Only if the result of unmerging those two lots will go against the ordinances of the town for a certain size of any lot that you're going to build on, right?
That would be a good question for one of the attorneys at the Municipal Association. I don't know how that would work. Again, I'm looking at larger lots, larger ownerships. That would be a great question for one of the folks at the Municipal Association or a land use attorney, how that would work.
Okay, thank you.
All right. There is somebody from the Municipal Association signed up, Mr. Graves, I believe.
I'll bring him in right now.
Thank you. This is Nate Grace, the New Hampshire Municipal Association again. So this is unfortunately a somewhat complicated area, and we have somewhat changed our position from the House. In the House, we opposed this bill, and now we are proposing an amendment to this bill. And our amendment would eliminate the deadline repealing and replace that with a deadline that is effective 20 years after the first effective date of this statute. And so the 20-year mark would be July 24th, 2031. And let me just explain that briefly. So initially, I guess, prior to the 1990s, there were a couple things that were going on. And I guess it's important to know first, what is, for the purposes of what we're talking about, a merged lot. An emerged lot is essentially multiple parcels owned by the same owner, which are contiguous, so next to one another, that are merged for the purpose of municipal action for zoning, assessing, or taxation purposes. So as Mr. Stock explained, if you own 2 1-acre lots, you just get a bill for a 2-acre lot rather than 2 separate bills for 1-acre lots. And that happens to the municipal level. It does not affect your rights to your land as per your deed filed at the Registry of Deeds. That's unaffected. But what happened was there were a number of parcels that were not buildable because they were too small for the zoning ordinance that was going to be adopted. So what happened was the legislature allowed an involuntary merger of lots. And so when a zoning ordinance was adopted, the lots were merged automatically. And so they were involuntarily merged. No landowners came to the town and said, we want to merge our lots to make them comply with the zoning ordinance. The zoning ordinance just automatically merged them. And after a period of time, the legislature said, okay, we don't want involuntary merger to occur anymore. And so as it exists right now, RSA 674-39 AA, which is what this bill would modify, barred municipalities from involuntarily merging lots after September 18th, 2010. So that's no longer something that can occur. In addition, when this statute was initially passed, the legislature required I believe it was a 5-year notice period. And there was notice that was provided at every town hall through 2011 through 2016. And they had to be published in the annual report, and there were a couple other notice processes, but no individual notice was sent out because, as I said, that the zoning ordinance just automatically merged lots, so they didn't trace back to where that occurred. That's something that would have just been updated automatically through the tax map update process, which the tax maps are used for most of these assessing and taxation purposes. Subsequent to 2011, in 2016, the legislature extended the ability of landowners to apply to the municipality to unmerge their lots. So there was another 5-year period that just expired December 31st of 2020. And so at this point in time, landowners can no longer apply to their municipality to unmerge their lots. The bill as written would simply eliminate the requirement so that 40 years from now, someone could say, hey, my lots were merged automatically and I want to unmerge them. We think it makes more sense to have a 20-year limit on this. And the reason for that is because it would be consistent with a person's ability to assert their property rights against an adverse possessor or other land related property rights. If someone comes and sets up a tent in your backyard for 20 years, after 20 years, they have rights to that property. Presumably within that 20-year period, you would kick them off because you would have notice, as somewhat similarly to this statute, that the municipality provided that they did this thing to your land. They changed your rights in some manner. And so we think that a 20-year period is more consistent, and that would give a firm deadline. It would be easier to apply, and people would know what it was. I'm happy to take questions.
Questions from the committee members? Senator Bertzel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you. How do you pronounce it? Nat?
Nate, like nature.
Nate. So currently, towns are not able to is what you're saying, towns currently now are not able to involuntarily merge?
Correct.
Okay, follow up?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is just kind of piggybacking on those that were involuntary merged prior, allowing them, what your amendment is doing is allowing them another 15 years to request them to be returned back to their original state.
Correct. They'd have basically 10 years from this July 24th to apply and be unmerged. And my understanding of the initial involuntary merger purpose was really for municipalities that were adopting zoning ordinances that required some sort of minimum lot size, usually based on requirements for septic or water wells, something along those lines. So you have to have a minimum lot size. You'd have a number of parcels that maybe were subdivided previously for some reason, and they would no longer be buildable until they were merged. And at that point in time, you could build on them. You could put your well in. You could put your system in.
All right, and there's no problem with them voluntarily merging?
No, that's a separate statute. If the landowner wants to merge parcels, they can come, they can apply. There's a whole separate statute for that process.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? I do have, I'm looking at the statute 674:39-AA, Roman 1, small a, and it looks like it's December 31st of 2021 and not 2020. Am I wrong, or is the statute wrong, or are you wrong, Mr. Graves?
I'm sorry, Senator Gray. I am wrong. I was looking at too many dates as I was talking, and so you are correct that it's December 31st, 2021, and I apologize for that error.
Okay. And if seeing no other questions, Kirsten?
All right. Our next speaker is Tom Christensen.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
My wife is with me also, Ginny Christensen. Thank you, Chairman Gray, committee members. And we are in full support of what the House did in this bill. We have a 900-acre tree farm. Actually, it's we sold a lot, so it's a little bit less. It's 800 something. And we support this bill, and come to find out, there were many lots on our property as we bought it over the years. We've been building up our property since 1973. And I'll give you an example. Going backward in time, the most recent unmerged lots, 7.7 acres was found to be 2 lots when they were surveyed. Okay, not only were they unmerged, the town didn't even recognize them. They lost the records. These were 2 lots that had a date of 1808 and 1824. Okay, they were merged initially because the tax collector wanted to make life simpler for the town. Just merged a lot. If they're owned by one person, then we'll just merge them. We'll send them one tax bill. That's primarily the process that occurred with the merging of lots. Then we had a 30-acre lot, which turned out to be 2 lots. Then we had an 88.4-acre lot, which turned out to be 2 lots. a 40.5 acre lot, which turned out to be 2 lots, and a 227.6 acre lot, which turned out to be 4 lots. Again, for the convenience of the tax collector, these were all merged. So we feel that this is a very good bill. It doesn't need a time limit. In fact, it's in combination with RSA 674-41, Roman numeral 2A, which states, this was added by the legislature in 2005, any lot of record, the key is lot of record. These are lots which pre-existed zoning. And if a town wishes to adopt a zoning ordinance, which they're allowed to do, our town has done it, many towns have done it, pre-existing lots, there's a grandfather clause that if you can get a septic system on these lots, they can be sold as a lot, individual lot. And this goes hand in hand with RSA 674-41, Roman numeral 2A. There shouldn't be any time limit. In fact, the 2021 time limit, we just discovered this 7.7 acres last year, okay? Who knows how many are still unmerged that landowners don't know about? The key is when a surveyor goes to survey the lots, he finds out that these lots were involuntarily merged 100 years ago, perhaps, okay? That's what we're trying to do. This is in support of 674-41:2A, and this is a good bill.
We did submit a letter.
Appreciate the time.
Questions from committee members? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tom Thompson.
Mr. Thompson. You should be able to speak, Mr. Thompson.
He is unmuted, so I'm wondering if it's a microphone issue.
Is there another speaker, Kirsten? Maybe we could put him out.
Well, before we go, Mr. Thompson, they also have telephone numbers. If you're having difficulty, it may be better to get you on by having you dial in on the telephone. And when you do, what is it, *9, when you finally get called in, and then we'll try to get back to you. All right. In the meantime, we will go on to the next person.
Sure. So our next speaker is Dennis McKinney. I see he is signed into this webinar twice. I'm not sure which user he is using, so I will bring them both in and we will see which one he speaks from.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, senators and staff members, for your service to the state. By way of introduction, I'm Dennis McKinney. I am a landowner whose property was involuntarily merged at some distant point in time by the town of Bennington, where I reside. My professional activities are as a forester and as a land surveyor. And let me give you a little quick case study of a client for whom I provided land surveying services in 2006, prior to the initial passage of this law that allowed the restoration of involuntarily merged lots. She had a 40-acre parcel of land. She desired to sell her home and the land on which it stood. Her deed was very clear that she had tract 1 and tract 2. And I said, you don't need my services at all. You have your home on a separate tract of land. Well, the town of Hancock did not recognize that. As a result of the town's failure to understand that there were 2 tracts of land in the deed, this landowner spent in excess of $7,000 to essentially get tract one recognized so she could sell her property. I think that's quite unfair to landowners. So clearly, this just doesn't involve small acreages which are substandard for zoning purposes. In spite of the fact that the law over the years has had a requirement for the towns to provide notice, you'll see attached to my written testimony that I submitted last week electronically to the secretary, that this notice requirement has been quite hit or miss. Some towns that I checked had complied consistently for 5 years. Other towns never published it in their town reports at all. So I think it's a bit of wishful thinking to believe that the public has been on notice. I would further point out that as the law is presently written and will be if reenacted, there is adequate municipal protection in there on zoning and building issues. So by restoring lots that have been involuntarily merged, it doesn't necessarily create a buildable lot or a lot that's in conformance with zoning. It simply recognizes that it's an existing lot of record. Last, I would point out that the merger of property by a landowner requires their affirmative action and approval by the planning board. This involuntarily merged situation is imposed on a landowner and significantly affects their rights in property without any consent on their part. And I think it's improper to conflate a time limit with adverse possession to the involuntarily merged situation. In fact, if I was to hostily adversely possess part of your property for 20 years, I may have rights in it, but I need to go to court to assert those rights. So it's not a foregone conclusion that after 20 years of possession of a piece of property that you have rights in that property until Superior Court tells you you do. Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Questions from the committee? I do have one, Mr. Thompson.
Kenny.
If instead of repealing that section, we just take out the date prior to December, that would say that what it would say is a request is submitted to the governing body. Okay, and the reason I would want to leave that in is because the statements right above that tell you that if you want your lots unmerged, you have to submit the request. That just clarifies it by taking the date out. I think I do the same thing that was being asked for in the first place. Is there an objection to that?
This is Mr. McKenney, Mr. Chairman, Senator.
Okay,
Gray.
Mr. McKenney.
I have no problem with the process that involves the involvement of the governing body of the town. I have done this a number of times and over the years, so I have no problem there. My real issue is the fact that someone's rights in property have a sunset date. I think that's totally unacceptable.
And all right, then are there any other questions from committee members? Seeing none. Kirsten, do we have anyone else?
It looks like we did have a phone number join us, so I'm guessing that's Mr. Thompson. I'll bring him in to see.
Okay.
Mr. Thompson, are you there? It looks like you will need to unmute yourself.
Dialing *9.
Still having problems, huh?
The numbers remained muted. I can ask them to unmute, but
Mr. Thompson, if you press *9 on your phone, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I'm better running an excavator than I am a computer.
Well, we may be able to get you some business. No, seriously, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gray and other committee members. My name is Tom Thompson, and I'm on this, calling on this bill for my wife. The two of us own and manage the Thompson Family Tree Farm in Orford. Our different properties total 2,400 acres in New Hampshire, and as small as 10.1 acres and as large a tract as 1,060 acres. We support House Bill 284 with the House Amendment, which will allow landowners to request the towns to restore the lots that were merged involuntarily. Over the years, I've purchased land starting in 1956. And the number of properties that we have, there are two in particular. One is 500 acres, and that tract, we believe, has 5 individual lots on it. But that property was owned by individuals back in the late 30s and 40s, and after the much difficulty, they just turned and walked away, and the properties went back to the towns. And what happened in many cases where the towns merged it all into one lot and put it back on the tax rolls as quickly as they could. And that's what happened to this property. In another parcel that we have, which was owned by International Paper Company, which at the time in the early 1900s, and this has happened all over the state of New Hampshire, particularly in the North Country, large tracts of the Paperland Company were sold off. And what we believe in laying our map over the original town map, there are 19 lots on that property. We did hire a title person to help us track that back. They went as far as they could in the town of Orford records and the registry of deeds, but they have to go to Concord to try to go back even further. And we all know what happened once COVID hit us. So we're going to pursue that, but it's our opinion that there are lots there. We would like to, at some point, leave tracts of land for our grandkids, but I don't want them to have to go through the process of, having to have it surveyed and go through all of that hassle. Just to point out on some of these large tracts of land that we own, we have been more bent over backwards for the state of New Hampshire to open those up for hunting, fishing, hiking, all kinds of recreation, and snowmobiling, which is bringing into this state what private landowners are doing throughout the state on recreation is bringing in millions and millions of dollars. And just on snowmobiling, it's direct and indirect, is over $600 million a year. The reason I raise that point is we as landowners don't get anything for that, and we're not asking for anything. But when it comes to this issue, which is near and dear to our hearts, and we want to provide our families as generations go by, I think it's appropriate that we are able, if we can prove, we're able to go to the town and have them unmerge those lots. Again, I think a lot of this happened back in the 30s and 40s when properties were, back in the early 1900s, you could buy property for 50 cents an acre. When I bought my first tract of land, in 1956, it was $2.35 a piece per acre. So this bill will help private landowners in the state of New Hampshire, and the passage of this bill will protect their rights as New Hampshire landowners. And I encourage you to pass this bill the way it came over from the House. And I thank each of you for first for serving in the Senate, and secondly, thank you for your time. And I apologize for not being able to be on face to face with you.
That's okay. I did have a question. Instead of taking the whole subparagraph A out, I wanted to leave the part where it says the request is submitted to the governing body and just remove prior to December the 31st, 2021, because the request is referenced in the paragraph ahead, and that just tells you who to submit the request to. Would you have any problem with that for an amendment?
Well, I guess I would echo what the earlier speaker said, Dennis McKinney, that, you know, rights that we have in our property, whether it's 20 years or further out, I, for one, who's worked very hard in putting this land together over 60 plus years, I don't want to lose any of those rights, nor do I want to, when it passes on to our son and to our grandkids, I don't want them to lose any rights because a town went ahead and did something without our knowledge. And so I feel very strongly about that.
I understand. I'm not trying to take away any of your rights. I'm trying to take away the date, which was the intent of the original legislation. Just that leaving that first part tells the person who is trying to get his lots unmerged where to submit the request.
If that's what you're telling me, Senator, and then I would agree with that. But I don't want in any way to lose any of my rights that I pass on to our son or grandkids.
Understand. Questions from other committee members? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
You too.
If anybody else would like to speak on House Bill 284, please raise your hand now.
And also, if you would like to comment on my suggestion of not removing that whole sentence, but just removing the prior to, which would remove the date. And
I do see a hand raised from Jason Stock.
okay, Jason.
Thank you. I just, and again, I would have to look at the legislature, or excuse me, the legislation in totality, but from what you're saying, Senator Gray, it sounds like your suggestion may be an elegant solution to retaining the ability to still petition, but allowing that in perpetuity. And for that reason, I'll take a closer look, but I think that it's, from what I'm hearing and what I've seen thus far, it sounds like that's a good solution, and I think we could support that. Again, I'll take a closer look and forward an email, but again, our issue was we didn't want any timeline or time, hard stop or sunset. So thanks for your suggestion.
All right. If anyone does want to comment further on that, certainly they can send an email to the committee by going to the website. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. And since, is there anybody has anything that they want to discuss in executive session on any of the bills?
Nope.
Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have motion and second to adjourn. I will call the roll. Senator Birdsell.
Yes.
Senator Ward.
Yes.
Senator Perkins Coca.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. We are adjourned. See you on Thursday.